April. What are we doing in April of 2020? Let's talk about that. And it's funny because the very first thing I was going to talk about has to do with just a really small example of what the energy is this week, where my computer, the system, wasn't allowing me to record using my microphone, and it was sort of malfunctioning. And it reminds me of the first aspect that we're dealing with this week. First of all, this first week of April has a cluster, you know what, of energies. There's just a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on in the world, and there's a lot going on with us. And the first aspect is this Mars conjunct Saturn. And the way that I describe this is Mars is the gas pedal, I want to go, and Saturn is the brakes. No, you're going to stop. Or it's the wall that you didn't see as you're pulling the car out and bump. So there's this push-pull, this go-stop energy that a lot of us are going to feel early, early in the week, let's put it that way. And, it's one of those things where I feel like just naming these aspects can really help us to manage our responses. So typically when there's something you want to do and it feels like you're not allowed to do it, there's a feeling of frustration that comes up. And part of this is because, Mars is our energy, and it's our aggression, and it can be our anger, and it's it's energy that wants to move somewhere. And Saturn is restrictive, and it's like, wait a minute, slow down, you're not allowed to. It's the seatbelt, it's holding us back. And so this is something that we're entering. Even though it's an aspect that completes on the 31st, we're still going to have had this frustration starting at the beginning of April. There's this, because we feel the importance of this time. We feel the energy that's in the world. We understand, even if we don't always articulate it, that we feel frustrated in other ways. So it may not just be the one thing that happened to you this week that frustrated you. It's this almost like it's a fear underneath that you're not going to get what you want. And so that is something we are just starting the week with. It's a time to just take some deep breaths. It's all going to work. And not to take immediate action on things that are, pissing you off, by the way. Just let that energy kind of move, because that sometimes there's big energy in the atmosphere right now. The second aspect I wanted to talk about is Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Jupiter is this expansive energy. Why is it expansive? Because it's wisdom. The more we know, the more we develop, the more the world develops. We live in an expanding universe that is, you look at a tree and you see that a tree is always expanding, always growing new branches, and so are we. We're the same. And so this expansive energy is connecting with something hidden, something underground, something occult, something. So what does that mean? That is bringing something to light this week for you that is powerful, because things that are underground are powerful. Tree roots, sewage. I'm not saying sewage is powerful, but it's like we have a powerful need for it to be taken care of and disposed of properly. And so there's this, and sewage is sometimes connected with Pluto, because it's the god of the underworld. It's the underworld. It's things that are underground and things that are taboo, things that we don't want to deal with. That's not to imply that this connection is going to be negative for us, and it depends on where it hits for each of us. Jupiter is very, it's a benefic. And so it is meeting with something maybe unexpected or hidden, something you didn't know, you're going to begin to know it. So think of it that way, or something beneficial. The benefit comes from knowing something you didn't know before, or having wisdom that you didn't have before. Last but not least, we have Mercury meets Neptune. Mercury, investigation, getting information, communicating it, meeting blurry, illusionary, underwater, mystical, hard to pin down. So that's a hard aspect to express, and I find it very difficult to express it, because how do you pin down something that can't be pinned down? So this is something to just be aware of: contracts and meetings of the mind, meetings of all kinds, and just again, also with that Mars and Saturn, even though Mars will pass Saturn, we're going to feel this all week. We're going to feel some kind of frustration, and it's possible that it will be connected with not feeling like our ideas are being met properly, not feeling like we're hearing things properly, understanding things properly, processing things properly, or as they were meant to be processed. So these three, it's just this strange kettle of fish this week, starting April, with everything else going on in the world. And so this is a wonderful time for those of you who saw my video on healing tools and for anxiety using fluorite. Fluorite is, it's this stone that doesn't allow cords to attach. And when there's confusing energy and other people may be confused, it's great to just have a piece of this or use some other tool to remove that other people's confusion. There's nothing wrong with people being confused. It's a very confusing world right now, but we don't want it to add to our confusion and then mistake someone else's confusion for ours. So let's draw a few cards for April, and let's see what we got here. I want this one, I think. Worry. Yeah. This is 5 of discs. And typically this card in traditional tarot is sort of someone with a broken limb limping along outside, on the outside in a snowy, cold atmosphere outside a building, feeling left out in the cold, feeling scared about money, feeling scared and worried. Now notice the word is worry. Worry has to do with what's going on mentally with us, and sometimes dropping into rabbit holes that do not belong to us, or states of being that we are not yet experiencing. So we're worried about another time that something bad is going to happen. And the human brain is really wired for worry, because our ancestors had to forage, and they had to discover where if something was too rotten to eat, or something was too poisonous to eat. It's that idea of searching for the poisonous piece of fruit, or for the bad berry. You don't want to eat the bad berry. And so if you are feeling worried, don't feel bad about that. Like, don't feel like, oh, I shouldn't be worried. And at the same time, recognize worry for your mind's or your brain's ability to search for danger, and that the danger may not come to pass. And often there, in the present moment, there is an opportunity we're overlooking because we're so worried. Does that make sense? Let's try to get another one besides the worry card. Oh, interesting. 3 of Wands. So this is a fire card. Remember, we are in the Aries energy right now. Sun in Aries, that's exalted. That's sun that can really, that means that the things that are really in our hearts to be or do can find ways of expressing themselves, and to really trust your intuitive knowing, you know, the part of you that feels excited to be alive right now. Just follow that for a little bit instead of the rabbit holes that your mind could fall into. This also has to do with lifting your spirits through coordinating with others, connecting with others. I know we're still in a time of social isolation in the world. People are being very careful. We're listening to the news. We're worrying. There's my timer. Um, and so this has to do with remembering to find a place where that lifts your spirits, whether you're going to a church service that's being streamed right now, finding classes that are being streamed, connecting with others, like-minded people. Be with your people right now. This is really, really important to help allay the worries. And there's one more thing that I wanted to say. Because this is such an emotional time, emotions are energy. They're not the stories our minds fall into. So if you can remember that for April, I'm going to keep this reading a little shorter than usual because sometimes I go a little too long. And right now, we really need to stay in the present moment, connect with like-minded others, and remember that emotions are energy. They're not the stories that we are falling into. So if something triggers you this month or this week or today, feel the energy without having to attach a story to it. Just try, even if it's anger, whether it's sadness, whatever the feeling is that you're having, just let that feeling have expression for a moment. Just say, okay, I'm going to let myself feel you. And it will, when it's given permission, just like when a person is given permission to be heard when they speak, that feeling will morph into something else. So let's keep it simple. Let's keep it short this month for the reading. And you can find me at the links below this video on YouTube. And if you need a reading, this is a great time to reach out, because especially if the stories feel bigger than your ability to handle the emotions in them, it might be time to reach for help, or just some support. You don't have to see it as help. It can be just support. So that sounds good to me. I'm wishing you a wonderful April, and thanks for watching. Please like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel if you want more, and have a great April.